Welcome to another RaiderPower.com mailbag. I'm Jarret Johnson, and we have a special guest this week, Matt Reagan. Matt, I'm really glad to have you.
Happy to be here.
Matt comes with a long list of accomplishments in the biz. He was managing editor of the TCU rival site, Purple Menace, head of recruiting, and covered most of the colleges in the region at Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Covered SEC football for the Knoxville Sentinel, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. But we have a lot of questions. Y'all had some great questions this week, so we're going to dive right into them. First one comes from Red Raider. He wants to know what happened to TCU's attendance last year. I don't know if it was that much different last year, but I think he's referring to, he said pictures don't lie. He's referring to Stephen Stevenson with the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, who we used to work with, his picture of the Kansas game where there was basically nobody in the crowd in the third quarter. What's your opinion about TCU's attendance and what they could possibly do to help that?
Well, I don't know if there's anything they could do to help it. I mean, it was atrocious last year, and TCU's football team was also not very good. That probably had something to do with it too. But back, when they were in the Mountain West and Conference USA, attendance was pretty solid, and that was before they, redid the stadium and added seats and, redid the outlay. But I think hearing response from TCU fans was, well, it's really hot. A lot of people were on the concourse. And I'm not buying that, to be honest with you. I mean, it's hot everywhere in Texas. It's hot throughout the Southeast and throughout the Big 12 and the SEC. There's 80 to 100,000 fans that endure the heat. Yep. So I think it's a byproduct of several things. TCU's team wasn't very good. Yeah. And also, TCU's fan base is a little different. They're a small alumni base.
Private
school. They really, I think their hope, and maybe they will get there. I don't know. Maybe they won't. But I think that their hope is that, the DFW sports fan will eventually latch on to TCU football. Will become, like they have for the Cowboys and the Rangers. Yeah. It hasn't happened yet. And honestly, I mean, because there's so many Tech alums, A&M alums, Texas alums, Baylor alums, OU alums, I don't see that happening. Yeah. So, you asked, is there a way to overcome that eventually? I don't think so. I think TCU is in trouble on the field in the Big 12, and I think that attendance is going to continue to be in trouble as well.
Give me my microphone back. No, I totally agree. They're going to have to win big even just to crack, just because they're a private school. They're going to have to win big to crack the Tech, UT, A&M fan bases in the Metroplex. Sticking with the TCU theme, Sonny Cumbie left Tech to go to TCU to help TCU kind of open up that offense. J-Tech D really wants to know what can Sonny Cumbie do to help them open up that offense and become a real viable offense?
Well, I don't know if there's anything he can do. I mean, the offense that they're planning on implementing. The top teams in the Big 12 for the last several years have been doing it for a long time. Yeah. I mean, it's already there, and I'm not sure that they have the personnel to be able to compete with the rest of the Big 12, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously in the last several years, TCU has had several talented receivers and to an extent running backs as well, but quarterback has not been good, to put it simply. And, this year, Matthew's the kid coming in. They expect to do big things. If he doesn't pan out, I don't see them making a bowl next year, to be honest with you. Wow. I mean, I really don't. I think that they're in a little bit over their head, and even maybe in a couple years once they get the personnel and they get used to the offense, maybe that'll change. But I don't foresee anything changing this year, to be honest with you. Yeah.
It's hard to win the Big 12 without a quarterback anywhere, but in the Big 12 especially. Yeah. Another question from Red Raider. He wants to know about Arkansas. Who do you think Arkansas has on offense and then both on defense who could really cause problems for Tech next year?
Well, on defense, they got a new defensive coordinator. Actually, Rob Smith, their fourth defensive coordinator in 4 years. That is not good.
Tech knows all about that?
Yeah.
That kind of turnover?
Yeah, Arkansas started the year 4-0 last year and then went 0-8 in conference. Finished the year 0-8. We're just absolutely awful on defense in conference play. I think for the year they gave up, 31 points per game, and in the SEC it was like 38 points per game, like 500 yards per game. So it can't get worse. That's the one thing. I mean, that's good news. It can't get worse. But I think with Webb and all the the weapons that Tech has, I think they're going to have a field day on Arkansas's defense next year.
What about offensively?
Offense, it's got to be Alex Collins. As a freshman last year, running back, he had like 1,000 yards, 4 or 5 touchdowns. He'll be back. He'll be ready to go. So that is one guy that could give Tech trouble, because obviously if there was one thing you were going to point to with Tech having a big weakness with last year at times was stopping the run, and Arkansas is going to be able to do that. So
sure. Give me my microphone back. Another question from JTech D. It's a recruiting question. He wants to know about how did Kentucky pull off this class? I know it was kind of down as far as on the SEC, but it was top 10 class. Yeah. It was a very good class. How did they pull off this class, being who they are?
Well, it was pretty amazing what not only Kentucky but Ole Miss were both of those teams were able to do. Yeah, it really was. I mean, I think the key to that was Mark Stoops having so much experience in recruiting elite players, knowing how to get in on them early. That we'll talk about that in a little bit, but get in on them early and put one thing that he did, and the same thing that Ole Miss did when they pulled in that stellar class in 2013 was they picked out their guys that they wanted early, and I'm talking top level guys, and they said we're going to put all of our efforts and our resources into landing these guys, and they did, because Kentucky's football facility, you got to have several things to sell your football program: facilities, success, several other things. Kentucky doesn't have any of that, which nothing. They have, and which makes it even more incredible what they were able to do. I mean, they got some guys who I don't think. I mean, their recruiting class was good, and I don't want to downplay it, but I still don't think it's not going to be enough to make a dent in the SEC. I mean, they're in the SEC East, and that Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, Florida every year. It's still not going to be enough to make a dent. But it was impressive what they did. So.
Okay, last question. This one's from Engines 53. He wants to know. It's a long question, but he wants to know basically. It seems like recruiting has really started earlier than ever. He mentioned that 30 of the top Texas recruits. 30 of the top 100 Texas recruits have already committed, and that most of the major programs in the Big 12 and the SEC already have 6 to 10 commits. And what your opinion is on that, why we're seeing this recruitment happen earlier and earlier, and basically when the timing is. Do you feel like it's important to get in on these recruits early?
Yeah, it's definitely important, because if you're not doing it, someone else is. Yeah. And obviously you want to be in on them. In the last 5 or 6 years, junior days have become a huge deal. I know Tech recently had one, and they've got one more coming up. So, and they're bringing in top names. You have to do that, because the other schools, the schools that are traditionally on the top of the rankings, just to name one school, Texas, their junior day traditionally for the last several years has always been a big day. And now they also have a sophomore day, and it's it used to be considered a great honor to get an invite to that. Texas has really fallen on the field, and for all intents and purposes in recruiting as well. But every school in the country is doing that. And you used to see, I'm talking about a decade ago, each recruiting cycle, it would say, okay, we're going to focus on this class, and then once it's over, we'll move on to the next one. Obviously, that's changed. And I know, especially in the SEC, even during the big official visits during weekends during the season, they're bringing in it's strategical. You bring in your commits, your big time commits that are also recruiting for you, but you also bring in that class's guys that you're going after, but you also bring in the juniors, right? Because you want to get them on campus. You want to show them the facilities. You want to show them the game day atmosphere. You want to show them all that goes along with that. But you also want someone else to be in their ear, not just the coaching staff, whether it's another recruit or commit or whatever. But it is happening. I mean, we saw, I think it happened last year. We saw, eighth graders? Eighth grade quarterbacks getting offered, 2 or 3 in the country. One of them already committed, I think, to like LSU maybe. And that's the trend going forward. I mean, you see more stories and things on Twitter of guys saying, I just got to know in my freshman season, and I've already got 5 or 6 offers. And going back to what I initially said, that's the key point: is that if Tech isn't in on them, Baylor's going to be in on them. TCU's going to be on them. Texas is going to be on them. A&M's going to be on them. So you've got, and it's hard to imagine what coaching staffs
What the conversations are?
Yeah, that and how do they manage their time? I mean, if you're all this effort into the now we're in the 15 class, but now they've got all this effort. You know, you're writing letters, you're calling, you're emailing, you're Facebooking, you're on Twitter, communicating. It's almost like, how do these guys have enough time? I mean, and it's just going to get, I don't want to say worse, but it's going to get even more involved as these younger guys, you know, more of them. You know, and that's another thing is huddle, recruiting sites like Scout and the other recruiting sites. When coaches get a chance to see film and the film is more readily available, the talent is going to get noticed easier too. So there's a lot of factors involved, but it is the trend and it's not going to stop. So
and you mentioned the time, how these coaches have time. I think the recruiting staffs, the people come in to just help out with recruiting, to help handle the visits, they have people under them mailing out the letters too. You know what I mean? Have become even so much more important than 5-10 years ago. You know,
it really has.
So it's the support staff is almost as important as the coaches, as the hustle with the coaches.
Yeah, you know what? I want to say one more thing on that. So, just another frame of reference. So, Tennessee had obviously, you know, a top 5, a really good signing class for this last year. And at the night of signing day, we went to they had a big recruiting celebration. Thousands of people showed up right in downtown. It was a big deal. And they made it a point, Butch Jones, Tennessee's coach, made it a point to talk about the support staff. Yeah. They brought in a, basically I don't know his official title, but he's basically the director of football operations. He was with in an NFL, he was with the Browns for like 9 years. Okay. So, and he brought his staff with him. The names, you would not believe how much effort and time and planning and all that goes into. And so now it's not just the 15 class, it's the 16 guys, which it's even more difficult because, you know, let's talk about it in official visit terms during the season. Okay, so everything's paid for, right, on an official visit. Well, you have to dot your I's, cross your T's, and make sure you're not committing any NCAA recruiting violations with these juniors because they can't get anything paid for. They're unofficial, you know. And so, I mean, it's just mind blowing how much goes into that.
Indeed. Matt, man, this has been great.
It has.
I'd like to do this again at some point. But man, I really appreciate you joining us. I really appreciate your input with the RaiderPower crew, and thanks for being here.
I'm glad to do it. Wreck 'em.